behind the scenes, you're taking these blocks out and you're so afraid the tower is going to fall. So after a tough night, the next day you're walking on eggshells. What happens is you suppress your truth. Mm-hmm. You end up not feeling like yourself. And when we're not ourselves, we're unfulfilled.
You're not psychologically safe. And there's a reason underneath that, because there's likely unhealed wounds that they're carrying into the relationship. And that, if that's not addressed, you will eventually break up, because that becomes a bigger snowball, bigger problem. Conscious couples, business partners, and singles committed to attracting their dream partner. Welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and combined relationship expertise to help you create and consistently cultivate the most magnificent, intimate relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching conscious couples and individuals all over the world, as well as starting and growing a global business together, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals from all over the world, welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. That may or may not have been the second time I did that intro. Tell no one. Shh. Today we have episode 161, How to Avoid Breaking Up. Mm-hmm. Before we jump into this episode, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this show and so many others all over the world. Personal growth, personal development, self-improvement, mental health, working on yourself. 90% of all your problems are your fault.
Are you?
When you work on yourself, your whole life improves. When you improve yourself, your whole life improves, including your relationship. So, as always, my love, ladies first, what is your intention for today's episode on this beautiful Saturday?
On this beautiful Saturday where the sun is finally coming out. Happy spring, y'all. It's coming out, and I know that is exciting, not just me.
Emilia is my little sunflower.
Yes, I live for the sun. And with that said, my intention for this episode is to help relationships quit going down the trenches, for lack of better words, which is the breaking up in an unnecessary way and avoiding that ultimately. And usually when people talk about avoidance, it's not necessarily in a positive connotation. I want to flip the script in this conversation for our conscious couples community to help them navigate a better road so that they don't have to break up.
So, sweetheart, behind you is a group of sunflowers. We did not plan on this. Do you mind snagging one of those for me?
It might be a little
difficult. Hopefully you don't knock over the whole vase.
The whole thing will go.
Will it all go?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you want that for comment?
Can we grab the vase real quick?
We can, yep.
Yeah, just grab that vase. All right, so for those of you on YouTube, Emilia is a sunflower. Lately on the episodes, I've tried to make Emilia laugh at the beginning, and if you didn't hear episode 160, I pretended to bring a bucket and a list.
The comic effect, we've decided this is going to turn out to be a relationship comedy show. So buckle up. We're actually a lot funnier than we come off.
Yeah, apparently.
But we don't show that.
Yeah, and please laugh. Please laugh. We'll throw in a laugh track. Production team, throw in a laugh track.
There you go.
Make us feel funny. No, okay. So seriously, Emilia, I'm going to tell this origin story. So Emilia, probably 2 years ago now or so, had suggested that I get a therapist and that would be really beneficial to me. I've been working with my therapist, Carol, for several years now, which is wild to say out loud.
Awesome, baby.
And thank you. Like many men, I had a little aversion to that. And it was, I need fixing. What do you mean? What's wrong with me? That kind of thing. And I think that that's a good metaphor. And Emilia said, it's not that you need fixing. It's that if you are proactive in doing this work, it will benefit you tremendously. You're leaving a lot of opportunity on the table by not doing this work.
Exactly.
And so Emilia and I, we had a couple come to us. And in some ways, and again, always anonymous, in some ways, this couple came to us a little too late. And it's unfortunate. Now, we're not saying that every couple should stay together. We don't necessarily agree with that. We've been coaching couples for over 4 years now.
Yeah.
And we don't agree that everyone should stay together. I think some people are actually better off separate. However, if you can be proactive in working on your relationship, you're going to be far better off.
Yeah, I agree. So, when you say that number, the 4 years, I literally go back to when I was coaching people when I was literally in grade school. And I know that sounds funny, and so I don't tack that on to my quote unquote years of experience, but like the principles continue to remain the same, and it blows my mind because back even in grade school, when people were asking me like, how should I navigate this person? What should I say to him? Like, what should I say to her? Like, that classic advice that people would come to me for from a very young age. It's still in a grown-up way, that type of curiosity, that type of not trusting oneself to know how to handle a situation. And so I bring that forward because as we're now adults and we're adulting, and a lot of people out there are coming and turning towards us in the conscious couples community to really help out with their relationship, I'm finding it really disheartening when there's couples that come to us and they're really on the struggle bus, and they're on the struggle bus for so many reasons that actually don't have to do with the relationship. It has so much to do with the baggage that they never handled, they never worked through, they never processed in therapy, the hurt, pains, and traumas that came from their parents or their upbringing or their past relationships, and the work that they didn't do. All of that was brought into the relationship, and it impacted the safety that the relationship was founded in. It impacted their ability to communicate with one another with love and respect and kindness and integrity. And so these tiny little nips at each other's heels over time accumulate to, wicked big problems that are so, from my perspective, are so avoidable when you don't let shame take over and you don't think that these problems are just problems that you have. And that's what I'm finding again and again. Couples who are on the track of breaking up, they have started on that track because those two things took over. Number one, they thought that they were alone in these struggles when they started having them, right? So for example, if Alan and I get into a little tiff, we have a disagreement, or we have two totally separate vantage points, i.e. beliefs on something, right? That little tiny fraction in the relationship or fracture in the relationship, someone would think to themselves that, that this is just a me problem, right? Like, not other couples experience that, even though intellectually people know that they're not alone in these issues. And what comes from that is the spiral of shame. And so that over time, between I feel alone in my struggles that me and my partner are having, we disagree on this, we're not really getting along here, right? They're kind of talking to me in XYZ way, plus the shame that's induced underneath that. People don't seek help, and they don't seek help until it's way too late. And I really wish that we could do something about that.
Well, there's shame around seeking help.
Yeah.
Right? There's shame around needing a therapist.
Yeah.
You should be able to handle everything yourself. You should. But here's the thing. When your car breaks down, you call a mechanic because you don't know shit about cars. I think that there's a functional understanding. There's a systemic understanding. I talked to you about this recently. I'm reading a book called Reset by Dan Heath. And he talks about how just because you can drive a car doesn't mean you understand how to fix a car. Doesn't mean you understand the systemic ways in which a car works. Yeah. When Emilia and I say we've been doing this work for 4 years, we see common patterns constantly with couples. Most likely, every single new client that we get, every time we jump on a relationship talks coaching session, we see these same patterns over and over again. And we see similar patterns in our relationship as well. Yeah. There's different nuances. Everyone's unique, but the principles remain the same. Humility, courage, vulnerability, the need for those. When you work on yourself, the relationship will improve. Communication, trust, bids, all this different stuff. Yeah. Okay, so there's shame around needing a relationship talks coach or a couples counselor or a therapist, and you think that that's the reason why people don't get help until it's too late. It's almost like you don't bring your car to the shop until it's already broken down. Yeah. But in a relationship, it's not like a car where you can just fix it and then move on, because we're emotional beings, and sometimes there's hurts that run too deep. This couple that we're referring to, again, anonymously, the hurt had run too deep with the male in the relationship.
Yeah.
By the time they came to us, we had had a couple sessions. They went incredibly well. They were definitely a little bit hopeful, but the man wasn't ready to give it another shot. He was, I've already, too much. It's been too much pain. It's been too long. It's been too much resentment. I have my own stuff I got to work through.
Yeah.
And so,
that decision. Which sometimes that's really important and takes a lot of courage to do.
So for our conscious couples listening, if they're out there, and I guess how do they avoid breaking up from your perspective? And then I want to say mine as well.
Well, I want to bring in some of so as an IFS practitioner, internal family systems, one of the things that's being consistently kind of indoctrinated in the training, especially that I keep like wash, rinse, repeating on as of late, babe, is this reestablishing safety. And I think like it is so wildly underspoken about when it comes to relationships and the relational dynamics, because at the very baseline, if you do not have psychological safety within your relationship, and it's not just like an if not or you do, you're gonna ask what it is.
It's 0 to 10.
Yep.
So 0 to 10, how psychologically safe do you feel in your relationship? Now we're gonna define what that is.
Yeah. So psychological safety is at the most base form. Can you be yourself, or how much do you feel as though you can be yourself and not have a negative implication from that? Lash back at your partner, or them lash back at you. How safe can you be? How psychologically safe can you be yourself with your partner in your relationship?
Here's a good metaphor. You're on stage in front of 1,000 strangers you've never met. Psychological safety is very low. Okay, so unless you're a seasoned speaker who's done this 1,000 times, your level of psychological safety, your central nervous system is going to be freaking out.
Yeah.
The number one fear statistically is public speaking, because these are a bunch of strangers. There's 1,000 different people in the room. Therefore, people have 1,000 different perceptions of you. So what you say, you're walking on eggshells.
Yeah. Yeah.
Emilia and I talk all the time on this podcast about our relationship is way better off the mic. Way better. You want to know why? Because I'm more psychologically safe with her than I am with strangers on YouTube and or the podcast. Right. Now, again, I'm working on it. That's why I made the sunflower joke. But, see? Now, here's the deal. What does it feel like to be psychologically unsafe? Walking on eggshells. I can't say the wrong thing. I feel caged. Every time this person goes off, or they shun me or stonewall or whatever. What does it feel like to be psychologically safe? You can make jokes, you can sing, you can dance, you can be yourself. You feel fucking free.
Yeah. One of the biggest indicators play. And play and dance and singing is a great indicator of that. And
so when Emilia and I are together on the couch snugging, our cats and dog, they do WrestleMania. And Emilia and I witness play.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because we've created an environment. The fire's on, we're watching something, Emilia and I are eating, and we're snugging, and they feel psychologically safe, so therefore they start playing. And that's when we see play break out. And it's so freaking cute. And then we'll rile them up and say, get her, get him, or whatever.
But in the contrast, if mommy and daddy are really stressed out, are, feeling any sort of insecurities crop up, are, just having reprocessed a belief system that totally threw off our entire worldview, then that's not going to happen, right? Even if we're snuggling on the couch, because our fur babies even know, like there's an unconscious thing called neuroception where they know when it is safe to be themselves and to open up into those upper tiers of development, which is more of that play and connection and what's called the ventral vagal state. So for couples who are interested in not going down that train track of eventual breakup, I think that safety foundation, I don't think that we can talk about it enough, because if you do not feel like you can be yourself with your partner, and it's subtle, it's very sneaky. If you find yourself kind of telling yourself like, no, like they love all parts of me, and gaslighting yourself, but like, oh, well, there's a reason why, he got mad or she got mad over this, or why there might be lashback there. Like, I get it. They have this, that. No, you're not psychologically safe. And there's a reason underneath that, because there's likely unhealed wounds that they're carrying into the relationship. And that, if that's not addressed, you will eventually break up, because that becomes a bigger snowball, bigger problem.
Hi, my name is Jason Blackstock, and this is my wife, Lisa. We got connected with Alan and Emilia a few months ago through friends. We were trying to look for ways to strengthen our relationship.
And right away, we just noticed with Alan and Emilia how they made us feel so calm, and like everything that they did with us was gentle, and it felt so like we could let our guard down right away. And that was something that allowed us to open up and just get closer so quickly. So
yeah, I felt it was very easy to connect with them, and their intuition for our situation was very surprising to me. Both past and present, they just knew us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they picked up on things that we didn't even think they would. They just, even in our mannerisms and the way we would look at each other at certain points in the conversation, it was just really cool to feel like they understood us. And it really gave us all the tools that we needed to work on us when we weren't talking directly to them. So we had like homework to do and things to work on, and it really elevated our relationship in big ways. And I think we're both really excited to keep working with Alan and Emilia, because you're never done working on your relationship. And I just feel like that is, if we're good, then the rest of our world is good with our children and our 4 kids. So
yeah, we're very grateful that we met Alan and Emilia and are looking forward to the future.
Well, what happens is if there's psychological unsafety, let's say your psychological safety, let's say you had a really, really bad night. The next day, the psychological safety is very low because one of the partners threatened to end the relationship. Oh, yeah. Now you feel like you have to be a certain way in order to mend the relationship because it's so far gone that you're afraid. We use the Jenga tower as a metaphor. If you've ever played the game Jenga, you're taking blocks out. Mm-hmm. As the game progresses, it's harder and harder to take a block out without the whole tower falling. And I think that's a perfect metaphor. Every time you fight, you're taking a block out and then putting it on the top, and the tower is more likely to topple. Mm-hmm. And when you have a lot to lose, let's say you're married, let's say you have kids, let's say you've been in a relationship for 8 years, let's say you've been posting on Instagram or Facebook or whatever platform that your relationship's magnificent, let's say that you have friends and family and in-laws and all this stuff, and everyone believes in you and wants to see you guys win. Yeah. But behind the scenes, you're taking these blocks out and you're so afraid the tower is going to fall. So after a tough night, the next day you're walking on eggshells. What happens is you suppress your truth. Mm-hmm. You end up not feeling like yourself. And when we're not ourselves, we're unfulfilled. And when we're unfulfilled, there's less play, less fun, less fulfillment, less joy. Now all of a sudden, fuck this. Mm-hmm. And then eventually all the truth comes out all at once, and now it's another fight. Yeah. And so this is a pattern that happens, that we've seen happen. This is a pattern that this couple was definitely running to some extent. Mm-hmm. And I guess, because I know we got to jump here soon, love, for the conscious couples out there, you answered the number one reason why relationships end up breaking up is because underneath, all the way down, it starts with psychological safety. Yeah. Because in the beginning, there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. Right. Emilia and I's first date, we went to sushi, we went axe throwing. It was all cloud nine. There's everything to gain and nothing to lose. We fell in love very, very quickly. All of a sudden, there's a lot to lose. So now we need to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Emilia, I'm kidding. I'm being playful. Okay, good.
He pulled it out.
I'm so glad she laughed. If she didn't laugh on that one, I'd have to say, I'm joking, babe, I swear, right? Because I want to
walk on eggshells.
Yeah, no walking on eggshells. No. Only on this podcast. Mm-hmm. So there's magic in the beginning, and there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. Yeah. 5 years in, you built a life together. Now you start playing not to lose. Now you're not your true self. Now it's like, what the hell happened? Now you've got all these responsibilities, kids, pets, whatever, household projects, goddamn. But the point is that all of a sudden it feels very cagey. It feels very like, and we could see this. We could see this in their somatic expression. Mm-hmm. Somatic expression is we watch, we're language. On Zoom, body language. You can see it in their body language. tense and they're struggling. They're fearful. They're in a fear-scarce state.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we break people out of that? Number one, acknowledge where you're at in psychological safety, 0 to 10.
Yeah, that's the biggest. You know, we had them do this. We didn't have them do this, but unconsciously, I was asking that question: how safe do they feel with?
You
one
did
another?
actually ask.
I said, can you define safety? How do you define safety in your relationship?
Yes. Yep.
That was a really powerful exercise that we've done with them and other couples too. And it's even good, you know.
What was the male's response? Do you remember their responses? Because the female said being seen and heard.
Well, it was having verbal reassurance and definitely being heard. The male was the ability to essentially talk without interruptions. And like when his perspective or his opinion was shared, his truth was shared, not have the partner come back in any sort of defensiveness or try to change the story or narrative.
Yeah.
And that was a great, you know, when you ask couples that question, you can tell a lot that their definition is the way that it is because of the past experiences that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, my definition of safety, we've talked about it in the past with these episodes. If Alan starts yelling at me, that's way out of the safety radar. Like, heck no, that's beyond a boundary that my central nervous system is okay with.
Which I don't do.
He would never do that. He would never do that.
By the way.
Yeah, but like that definition.
Sometimes I've come close. I want to make this as clear as possible. I need to be honest. I will escalate my voice at times, and once it gets to a certain octave, Emilia will say, hold up. Pause. Let's take a minute. Take a couple box breaths here. Yeah. So
cartwheels.
I've never yelled at Emilia. I'm very, very proud of that. I'm very proud of that.
Babe.
Yeah.
That's great. So here's the thing though. That definition came as a result of past partners yelling at me and me checking in with my body and like, this doesn't feel good. So all of the conscious couples that are listening to this, your definition of safety is the way it is because of your past experience, not because of necessarily what you want in the future. And that's something, you know, just to understand, yes, you have to acknowledge 0 to 10 or how psychologically safe do I feel in my relationship. But sometimes I find it really helpful for couples because they're always so focused on the bad when they're already in this mindset of like, how unsafe do you feel? Even just flipping that frame, you could use that as the primer for really you to suss out some of those challenges that are causing a lack of safety in your relationship. So for example, one of the things that I shared with you was, and you just demonstrated this beautifully, babe, for me to talk and you to listen and me to finish, that is really important. That ties back down to safety. And when you jump in and maybe cut me off, you don't mean to, but I am interpreting that's a me thing as you're not paying attention to what I'm saying, right? And you're like, no, this is conversational agility. Like I'm jumping in. I actually am really hearing you. It's those little things that add up. If you didn't actually listen to that piece of feedback that I gave to you a couple of weeks ago, like, and we've talked about that, it's those little things that can get swept underneath the radar that contributes to a lack of safety in a relationship.
So everyone out there, the idea is number 1, 0 to 10, where is your psychological safety at in your relationship? How much do you feel like you can be your true self? And then number 2 is, what does safety look like for you?
Mm-hmm.
What does safety look like for you? And that can be, maybe a better frame would be, what is unsafety, to your point? What does it feel like to be not psychologically safe? Okay, when I can't sing, or when I can't when I can't do what I want to do, whatever it might be, right?
What does it feel like?
Yeah, what does it feel like? Okay, I have book club in 9 minutes, so I think we got to break it.
You're not with me. Come back to me. Come in this episode and give your perspective.
My perspective, so I think that the psychological safety is really important. I think the reason people break up is they don't work on themselves. Like that, I think ultimately, and I'm just going to be very direct, wanting a great relationship without wanting to be a great person first is dumb.
Right there with you.
You have to work on yourself. Like, okay, I've never yelled at Emilia ever.
Mm-hmm.
For 5 years we've been together. We live together. Okay, there have been moments where my life is really hard, but I never will. And the reason I know that is because I've worked so hard on myself. And so Emilia's answer to how to avoid breaking up is create psychological safety. And I'm with you 1000% on that. For me, I think it all comes back to how much are you working on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you improve yourself, if you improve your emotional regulation, if you improve your ability to listen, if you improve your humility, courage, and vulnerability, if you improve yourself, and this is really the deeper layer of it, and I just talked about this on a different podcast that I was on earlier, Next Level University. I think that when you feel insecure, not you, but anyone, when you feel low self-esteem, low self-confidence, I think you're going to end up being a worse partner. I really do believe this is true. We can all think back to a time where we were really unfulfilled. We didn't feel good about ourselves. We were insecure. We didn't believe in ourselves. We didn't have high self-esteem. Okay, so everyone check in with your own self-esteem. If you have low self-esteem and you're deeply insecure, but pretending not to be in your relationship, that's going to cause your relationship to suffer. So you have to find a way. I believe each of us have a responsibility to work on ourselves, because you can't give away what you don't have. If I don't have self-esteem and I don't have self-worth and I don't have self-belief, I can't want Emilia to win. I can't want her to flourish. I can't help her, like the sunflower she is, blossom unless I am blossoming, unless I am abundant. And this goes back to scarcity. So if you feel psychologically unsafe and scarce and insecure, most likely psychological lack of safety is connected to one of the partner's insecurities. And that insecurity could be worked on in therapy and or coaching. So if you improve yourself, your relationship will inevitably improve. Last piece. I've had people for years, and I'm so grateful for this. They've said, I want a relationship like you and Emilia. And I'm really grateful. I appreciate it. We inspire a lot of people. I'm very grateful. However, that person who says that, many times this has happened, my brain goes, first you have to work on becoming like Emilia or like me. You have to work on yourself every single day. And you have to build your own Jenga tower every single day inside of yourself. I was not capable of being with someone like you. Emilia is 30 years old right now. Emilia at 30 is physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually more well-developed than what I could have handled when I was 25. When I was 25, I wasn't capable of this. I would have raised my voice. I would have gotten emotionally unregulated. I wouldn't have been vulnerable enough to have these conversations. I wouldn't have been able to start a podcast with her. The only reason we can do this is because we've worked on ourselves enough to do it. So that's my truth.
I love it.
Thank you for asking. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for sharing. And to validate all of that, like, it's so cool to see that come full circle, because there's been many instances where I've had challenging days and I've had to pause myself and say, hold on. I know there's a part of me that wants to go buck wild or like be upset or blah, blah, blah. But I also, like, I'm thinking about how might that impact the psychological safety bucket that I'm pouring into with whatever emotional exacerbation I am choosing to kind of pour into that bucket. And so that 21-year-old version of me wouldn't have done that. So it does come down to the work too.
You at 21, love, would have mistreated me.
Damn right.
And me at 21 would have mistreated you because we didn't work on ourselves enough to sustain something of value.
Yep.
In order to build a mansion, you have to know architecture. You have to know the building. You have to know how to do a kitchen and how to renovate. And that's what you have to put in the work.
Yeah.
Inner work.
Mm-hmm.
So the work, as we did an episode on that in the past. So okay,
don't go to couples counseling after things happen. Go to relationships talk coaching, because that is relationship insurance. That's the reframe that we want to challenge everyone to look at relationships from. What if you had insurance to reassure yourself, help you do that work, and have better outcomes as a result? It's better. It's so much better.
Relationship Talks Coaching, we will help you build your dreams together. We will help you grow together, not apart, and build your goals and dreams together. And it's magnificent what we've seen happen. It's really has been miraculous. So, okay, we have a Relationship Talks event coming up. Relationship Talks Coaching. The first one is free. The link will be in the show notes, sweetheart. We have an RT event, and I have book club in
the
3
top
minutes.
10 most common ways partners mistreat each other. It will be March 20th, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link to register is in the show notes. We hope to see you there.
Okay, thank you as always. We appreciate you. It's not about you or me. It's about the we and sunflowers.
And you. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please make sure you follow us on Instagram. I am at Evolve with Emilia, and Alan is alazarus88.
Also, if you or your partner resonated with this episode, leave us a review at the link in the show notes, and please share this with someone you love and care about.
Until next time, remember, it's not about you or me. It's about
the we.